Oh, what a Christmas period it's been for Sheffield Wednesday. Welcome back to our Owls Walk. It's episode 23. On this week's episode, we're talking about UGBO, WINDASS's future, the FA Cup, and the January transfer window. And who should the Owls get in? We've got Glyn, Matt, and Tom back, and welcome as our special guests this week, Adam. I'm sure you'll recognise Adam's face from many other Sheffield Wednesday podcasts and features. Welcome, Adam. How are you? Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, very good. Thank you, mate. How are you?
We're very good, thank you. Let's jump straight into the debate then, shall we? Let's start with the Millwall game, Glyn. How should we phrase this question? Was it the right decision to give an out-of-form striker a penalty at 1-0 in a game?
In hindsight, you look back at that game. You know, we were on top. You know, we were doing really well. I think we probably could have been in front a little bit further anyway, standard. For me, yeah, I think why not? You know, if he puts it in the back of the net, like Danny Rohl said, you know, nobody been talking about it now. He's scored, he's away, he's got his goal, and he's got a little bit of a goal scoring confidence. But yeah, the penalty itself was, I think it's still coming down, isn't it? It weren't great. And he looked a broken man, didn't he? So it could have the complete reverse effect, unfortunately. And you know, he took his shirt off as he's walking down the tunnel, and I'm not sure he actually even wanted to come out in the second half, and rightly so. Danny made him. He hit the bar. You know, he must have shot a robin back in, you know, previous life or something, because nothing seems to go in his way at all, does it? Bless him.
Yeah, we've spoken here before, and if UGBO is watching this, or friends of UGBO are watching this, hopefully you're all giving the message from him that every single Sheffield Wednesday fan is 100% behind you.
Absolutely.
Every player goes through these spells, and don't forget, without him, Matt, last year we said it, you'd be in League One now, playing probably Mansfield this weekend.
No, I agree with you, Mark. And I think, again, whenever a striker isn't scoring goals or has scored one goal, which was in the League Cup against Grimsby, there is obviously going to be questions asked of him. But me, you and Glyn have talked about it at length over the course of this season. I personally believe that we are a better overall side with EK UGBO in the team. However, when a striker isn't scoring goals, there are going to be questions asked of him. And I'm sure as well, like, EK UGBO is big enough and grown up enough to understand that those questions are going to come, and you can see how much it's weighing on him. I think the reaction from the fan base was the thing that was most impressive, because when he was given the penalty, there's been some indication that it was a player on-field decision, effectively. When he was given it, I've never heard Hillsborough chant a name of a player before he's even taken a penalty. Like, it didn't even happen in the miracle of Hillsborough when Michael Smith was given the penalty like 7 minutes in. It was something that was really well mean. He missed, and then again there was another rendition of his sort of song as well, which, when he eventually does score, Mark, whether that be Hillsborough away from home, the roof is going to come off that stadium. And I'm hoping that the floodgates are going to go open, because, again, all of last season and this season, I've sat here, and since he's been at Sheffield Wednesday and been a Sheffield Wednesday player, I've championed him and said, you know, how good of a footballer he is. And it's just unfortunate.
Okay. Adam, I'm sure you've been asked this question many, many times, but what do you see is wrong with UGBO this season, if anything?
I just think it's confidence, mate. As you've mentioned, every player goes through this period. We've seen it with a couple of our own strikers before. I'm not sure I'm brave enough to call him a fan favourite as such, but he was definitely a pivotal figure for a few years. Atinui, who went through a stage of not scoring any goals and people getting on his back. But when they come out of that, the fan reaction at Hillsborough is usually really, really positive. So yeah, I echo Matt's words. The moment that ball hits the back of the net from whatever part of his body it comes in off, it'll be a really good moment for the majority of fans. I do agree that we probably look like a better side on the pitch when he's playing. I think that's quite an easy comparison to make, because the other alternative, as much as he's done well this year, is Michael Smith, and he's not one of the greatest. He's not one of the greatest footballers. He's a good finisher. But I don't think he's one of the greatest footballers in the world. He's doing a good job for us right now. But if we're being completely honest with the position we're in the league, he's probably overperforming what his actual standard is. And he's been benefited by the fact that Gassam has turned it on this year. Bannon's aging like a fine wine. I was calling for Bannon to be getting his game time managed in the summer. How wrong was I? And Windass has just been sublime this year. So, yeah, I think we need to persevere with UGBO. I don't think it'll benefit him at all by putting him on the bench. I think he just needs to get those minutes under his belt. We've got goals coming from elsewhere in the squad. I think we're the top 5th highest goal scoring team in the league. Our ailments aren't up top, they're in defence. So the moment we can get him a goal, he'll kick on.
Well said. We'll have a look at some of the results over Christmas in a second. But Tom, let's just talk about the Derby game, if that's okay for a second, because it featured probably one of the best goals, I'm going to suggest, in your young lifetime supporting a Sheffield Wednesday fan, that you've ever seen scored live, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be up there, just the audacity to take it on from halfway, especially at the time in the game. But yeah, I think that Derby, you saw after the game, their manager going on a little bit of a heated rant about how they should have maybe got more of the last 2 games. But I think that goal just sums up Windass this season. He's been on fire. And then I know he's got links to Brazil in January, but I think that game just highlighted what Sheffield Wednesday are. We've got some attacking talent. We can just score for fun. And then we have some mistakes in defence, which cost us in the next few games as well. So it's just, typical, really. But
all right, let's stay on Josh Windass then, shall we? Glyn, yes, the ex-Rangers manager is now in Santos, and can you believe that a Brazilian club are bidding for a Sheffield Wednesday player? I mean, first of all, price tag, and should he just is he better just staying with you for at least till the rest of the season?
Josh likes to put himself in the shop window, doesn't he? You know, certainly around this time of year when people are looking in. I don't know whether it's true, whether it's false. I know his contract's running out at the end of the season, so that might have an additional effect to kind of what's going on in the background. But of course, everybody on this podcast would like to see him stay. You know, we said last week about Danny Rohl manages game time. He's not been touched wood. He's not been off injured this season so far. He does like a bit of time off in a season usually, but so far, you know, he's stayed fit. So I can't comment on that this time around. But no, I don't think he's going to Brazil. But I certainly think he's put himself in the shop window, and if the right came along and the right money was on the table, would it be a consideration? I absolutely think so. From a club's perspective, 100%. I think we'd let him go.
What's the right amount of money for you, Matt, that you would have to say yes?
Oh, difficult question, Mark, because obviously we're talking now. Well, I was just going to say, I mean, the Peak District is lovely, but them beaches in Rio de Janeiro look very inviting at this time of year. As Glyn said, with 6 months left on his contract, £1 million for a player it's a good sum of money. The problem is he's scoring, I suppose, from the perspective of us. And, you know, several Sheffield Wednesday fans, I would include myself in this, have said that the problem of the club has been not selling players for years and years and years, and we need to move on from them and all the rest of it. And then the bid comes in for a player who is out of contract in 6 months' time, and we're only 4 points off 3 points, 4 points goal difference, like off the playoffs. And everybody goes, "Oh, I'm not so sure." I think to really test the waters here, 1 million is a very good starting bid, like a really good place to open it up. Because if we entertain that bid, I would imagine that there is another raft of it, anywhere between, with 6 months left, and he's not indicating that he's really wanting to sign a new deal, 2 million, I think, just because of the level of importance. But again, if I was Sheffield Wednesday, I'd be looking to tie him down to a longer term deal with the caveat that I know he turns 31 this week. So when I say a long term deal, I'm talking 2 years, but on good money because he's earned it over this season.
Okay. And whereabouts were you two? Sorry, when that goal went in, were you behind it?
I sit directly on the halfway line of the south stand, so posh seats, Mark. So directly on the halfway line of where the camera looks down at Hillsborough. So I had pretty much exactly the same view of everybody on TV watching it.
Brilliant. Okay. Adam, can I ask you about the Middlesbrough game briefly, if that's okay? I mean, Wednesday are doing things the hard way this season, aren't they? 3-0 down at half-time. I think one Wednesday fan described it as the most disgraceful 30 minutes that he's ever seen, and then you still get a point from it. Just explain that game in a nutshell for me if you can.
Typical Sheffield Wednesday, I suppose, is probably the best way to say it. I mean, you probably won't. I'll be honest with you. I don't know if many people will, but there was a game in League One where we went 3-0 up against Sunderland, and we were home and cruising. Unfortunately, I was at work at the time, so I was unable to make the game. And I was still nervous that we would somehow lose that game. That we just always seem to find a way to do something daft. There are very, very, very few games in recollection where I believe we've genuinely been played off the park. The vast majority of times where we lose, especially when we concede a few, is a culmination of daft errors. We've got a tendency to have quite a few players in the squad who are, on their day, way too good to be playing for Sheffield Wednesday. The vast majority of their days, they're probably not good enough to be playing for Sheffield Wednesday. I think Dominic Iorfa is probably the prime example I can think of right now. On his day, he could walk into maybe 4 or 5 Premier League sides, maybe not starting lineup, but get on the bench, definitely. On his average day and how he's been performing recently, I think he'd struggle to turn out for Carlisle. So, yeah.
Sorry, Adam, you're talking a lot of sense here, Adam. This is unusual.
Yeah, so it was just a typical game for Wednesday. I think we were lucky to come away with the point in the end. But then again, I thought that with Millwall, we've done it quite a few times recently where as much as we were the better team in the second half, we did have the advantage of an additional man. Yeah, I'll be honest, my head's a little bit all over the place for Wednesday at the moment, just because of the fact that we seem to be putting really good performances in and not getting anything. And then we'll turn out and play pretty poor and somehow be winning a game. And yeah, it's leaving fans feeling really confused. And I think a lot of the performances we've got this year are more down to the way that Danny's set us up on the pitch, especially in the second half. You've seen a lot of the times where the first 45 minutes we've all been going, oh my God, what has happened? You know, what's this side? Why has he played this, that, and then the other? And if that had been under any of the managers we've had probably since Paul Sturrock, we're probably just thinking, well, that's it then. Even under Darren Moore, he got the feeling back for Sheffield Wednesday, regardless of whatever else went on. He got that Wednesday feeling back. But before him, it probably was Paul Sturrock that actually had a plan for the second half. But Danny Rohl's got that, and you can see there's been a couple of times where he's brought on players. I mean, there were one particular occasion he brought on Patterson when Jamal Lowe was sat next to him on the bench, and to me, I'm thinking we need a little bit of pace. Gassama's already on the pitch. Masaba's probably not playing very well at the minute. Jamal Lowe's the best option. Brings on Patterson, gets the assist. You know what I mean? So with his methodology and his understanding of the game and his ability to read what's going on the pitch, is far superior to anyone I've seen at the club in a long time. So as much as the game didn't go the way that we wanted it, I have that trust that he's going to be able to get us those points when no one else would.
Cheers for that, Adam. The last game, Tom, we haven't discussed then yet is Preston away. Didn't go so well. Sorry to leave this one to you, but can you walk us through what happened at Deepdale?
Yeah, I think it's just same again, similar to the kind of Middlesbrough first half. It's just the defending has been shocking in recent weeks, and I think obviously missing Bernard and then Heckway and a few other experienced defenders when we're playing 3 at the back with maybe 2 fullbacks. It's just kind of eventually getting to us. And then you have games like Derby or Middlesbrough where we can score a lot of goals. But in January, I'll really be looking at an experienced centre-half to kind of stop these mistakes going through. You see Iorfa kind of stumbling over the ball now and again. And I think he's a very good sweeper maybe, but as the central centre-half, he isn't good enough. So we need someone to kind of cut out these errors, especially away from home as well.
Okay. Well summed up. Let's look ahead then, shall we? It's FA Cup round 3. this season. 3-time winners. Can we make it 4? And do you know what? I mean, you're not going down. You potentially aren't going up either, but that may still come
you never
to
say
fruition.
never with Wednesday. You never know.
Yeah.
We might win league.
To both of those, Mark, by the way.
Fall off, yeah. So this should be the season. I think you could have a good cup run. Coventry are awful. They'll tell you that themselves. But why for you, Glyn, haven't Wednesday had so much as a peak so much at the later rounds? If you have a look in the last, what have I got up here? The last sort of 15 years or so here. I mean, you have a loving with the 4th round, and then that's it. You capitulate, really. And if you look down there, I mean, apart from City, maybe and Chelsea, you're not really running into big names either. What do you put that down to?
If I'm honest, Mark, I'm not really that sure that we've had season after season of kind of strength in depth. So it's more of a fitness thing, games, the Christmas period's always a busy period, and then you go straight into the FA Cup. We tend to lose important players, and we haven't got the kind of players to backfill them positions. So we try as best, but I'm not sure it's a massive priority on the Sheffield Wednesday hit list at this particular moment in time, and I don't think it has been for a long time. Even though the magic of it is there, and it'd be lovely to go on a great FA Cup run. It would, financially, especially for Sheffield Wednesday. But for me, strength in depth, the run of games, and just not having the kind of staying power, if you like, to. I think we kind of prioritise things a little bit sometimes, and I'm not saying we dip out on purpose, but I think sometimes the possibly could be an element of that, built into the way we're set up sometimes.
But Tom, I'm always fascinated how younger fans view the FA Cup. Could you care one jot about this Coventry game?
Yeah, I mean, I always want to go as far in the cup as possible, especially if you get a big side, maybe away from home. But I think in the last few years, we've been either battling relegation, trying to get promotion, and then we've just played a B team maybe against a slightly better opposition, and then we just bow out. But it would be really great to have a cup run, because you see some teams like even Coventry got to a FA Cup semi-final. They should have got to a final, really. And to have Wednesday at Wembley, with a chance of a trophy, you can never turn it down. Yeah.
Matt, what's your view on that? I mean, it's a sellout, I believe. Wednesday fans are going to be turning up in numbers. Would you rather finish 6th or have a semi-final at Wembley?
6th. It would be wonderful to go a long way in the cup, but just to go back to a point that Glyn made there, Mark, can you just pull that graphic up that you just had up, the cup run one? The reason why I'm looking at that is because last year, where we got knocked out to Coventry, battling relegation, previous year against Fleetwood, we're going for a League One title, ultimately ending up in the playoffs. Plymouth, the previous year, again, trying to get promoted from League One. Season before that, Everton, away from home, getting relegated. Man City, close to relegation. Like Glyn made the point absolutely right. We've had other priorities. This is the first year that, as you rightly say, there isn't really anything on, Sheffield Wednesday, we're not going down, we're not going up. It would be great, but ultimately, if you were to offer me 6th now, or the position that we're in now, with the depth of our squad and the number of injuries that we have, in particular to our back line, no, nicest one in the world. I'm happy to bow out in the 3rd, 4th, or 5th round once again. I completely take the point that Tom's making, however. It would be absolutely fantastic to see us on that stage like Coventry were against Man United and all the rest of it. But we saw what happened to Coventry. Their form went off a cliff and they've never really recovered from that. Even the hangover from that has just run into this season. I wouldn't want that really to be that, because, I mean, looking at Coventry squad compared to ours, the depth isn't there. And if you have that hangover exist into next season, I mean, a side like ours and the strength that we've got, you just couldn't sustain it. Now, I'm sure the chairman would love it, but I mean, from our perspective, my perspective in particular, no, I'm not too fussed. I would much prefer to take our chances over 2 games.
Yeah.
Finally, this one, Adam, will Danny play a strong side against Coventry, and then should he play a strong side against Coventry?
Difficult one to answer. I think he'll play a strong side, but I think that's because of the players we've got available at the moment. I don't necessarily think we've got a weak side. I think we've got weak individuals who, when in the side, can make the team look weak. But I don't actually think we have like a second string side. I think point I was going to raise, drawing back to that graphic, but I can remember the games because I was at them. Fleetwood, we played. Can I swear on this podcast?
Mildly.
Okay. We half-arsed it against Fleetwood, and we put out a semi-strong side with half youngsters. Against Plymouth, we didn't put out a load of youngsters, but we put out a load of rotated players. When we played Everton, we did the same. The last game that we actually went for it, and I say this relatively loosely, was against Man City. And I remember Pep Guardiola after that game said that Barry Bannon was the most important player on that pitch at that game. And he played at the side of Alex Hunt, and he was showing him how to do it. But other than Alex Hunt, from memory, we played a majority strong side. And I think the manager needs to decide to go one way or the other. You can't play half the team that play every week and half from that don't. You either need to go one way, all out, attack for it, go for it for the end of the season, or you don't, and you put your youngsters out and you accept you're going to go out of the cup. But for me, like, getting sixth this year would be incredible because the chance to go up, and odds have been far worse for other teams and they've gone up. I remember when Huddersfield did it, they did the double. It can happen, but realistically, looking at our performances against teams above us, we're not going to go up. So if we get sixth, it's just going to be another playoff heartache. Personal opinion, people might not like that, but I'm a realist. I'd rather us go for the cup. As Tom said, every other year we've either been battling relegation or we need to prioritise getting promoted. I mean, League One, you have to because of the finances that are involved. If we'd have not got promoted against Barnsley, we'd have been royally up some trouble. I'd rather us have a go for it. We've got a couple of injury problems at the back at the moment, but you've already mentioned that the next part is going to be asking about who we need to sign. We need to sign defenders. So yeah, I'd like to see us have a go at it. And you know what? If you go out and you have a go, fans are never going to complain.
Brilliant. It's going to be a noisy. Yeah. It's going to be a noisy one anyway. We'll of course get the thoughts on all of you following that game next week on the channel. Before we finish, then we want a name from each of you, if that's okay. You can include names from papers or high in the sky dreams if you want, or realistic ones. One name that you'd love to see in a blue and white striped shirt come the end of January. Glyn, can you kick us off on this one?
How much money have I got to spend? No, I like Adam's just said there. We're desperate for defenders now. That depends on how deep Chansiri's pockets are going to run. So I've not really seen any names, if I'm honest. Kind of across the back. So the one name that we were linked to last season, and is a goal scorer. He's playing for Stoke at the moment. Is Tom Cannon. Whether we can afford that sort of money, who knows? We're absolutely in limbo at the moment. So just before this podcast, I was scouring the free agent market and saw a £2 million MLS striker that's a free agent, a Wusu or whatever his name is. Is it worth taking a stab? It's frustrating, Mark, that we're looking at the free market when I'm scouring Twitter before I came on here and there's teams in Championship signing £19 million players, and we're wondering if we can sign anybody. It's a difficult situation for us at the moment.
All right, good shout, Matt.
Yeah, we've been linked with Ronnie Edwards in the week leading up to obviously the January window opening, and then obviously January 1st he goes and signs for somebody else. The centre half is a priority. I was looking at it slightly differently and thinking that actually an experienced campaigner in the division, because we have a history and a track record of bringing those type of players in. I'm thinking your Harley Deans, your Aidan Flints back in League One, a Willie Bolly or somebody like that at Nottingham Forest who is struggling to get game time, just to come in for 6 months, even if it's just kind of like a squad and rotational player, just while people are unfit. That would be fine for me as like a must. Again, we've spoke about it before. I think you also need a more stable wide player to offer competition for Anthony Masaba, and a forward. I think is ideal. Tom Cannon would be brilliant, but I just don't think he's within our budget.
Okay, Tom.
Yeah, I think defensive wise, we definitely need an experienced centre half. I haven't seen too many out there. I've heard Ben Mee maybe as a possible kind of just short-term centre-half. But if not, then Louis Barry. I think every Championship club has probably mentioned him. But yeah, if we get someone like him on loan, then it kind of gives Kusama, Masaba kind of a bit of a break. Someone who can, give you a goal threat and play across the front line as well.
Okay. Adam?
I'm really annoyed because Tom's just said my name. It was going to be Ben Mee.
Really?
But I'll go really left field here, and I don't think that many Wednesday fans are like this. But he's currently not getting much game time because of selection choices. But John Egan would be available on loan this January. I think he'd fit in fantastically. As much as he was a Blade, so was Max Lowe. So you've already got a little bit of chemistry there. And for the majority of the time, while they were at the top end of the Championship and in their year where they were 9th in the Premier League, he was the heart of their defence. You know, they played overlapping centre halves. He was the only person back defending against Man City, Man United, Chelsea, and he could hold his own. He's lost his legs a little bit now, but all we need him in to stand there and pass it about a bit. He's got Bernard at the side of him for that. If we're still playing Iorfa as the wing back, he's got a bit of a sweeper. He's got Max Lowe to his left. I think if we could get him on loan, I think he'd be an astute move.
Brilliant. Going to be a busy month if you want to sign all those. We'll be keeping abreast of it across the next 4 weeks and so on. Thank you very much, all four of you. Hope you enjoy your game against Coventry. Will be here next week, as we've said, to preview all the January fixtures and look back at the December Player of the Month. So get your thinking caps on for that. Thank you, Adam. Great to have you.
Cheers, lad. Thank you.
As a guest this week, and thank you very much for joining us. If you haven't yet subscribed, please do so. You know where the like button is as well. We love making this content for you. It's very hard to grow anything on YouTube these days, so we're very grateful for anyone pressing that subscribe button. Thank you very much, you four. See you next week. Enjoy the FA Cup.
See you later.